I was able to figure that out, dude. There was this thing online, and I guess it can stay on the YouTube. It doesn't really matter that much. It was like you could download this extension for OBS called Streamlabs,
Mhm.
and it'll help you it'll make you'll be able to do like more features basically. I was like, I don't really know what that means, but I'll try it out. And then remember a couple podcasts ago when I was like, oh, we're not on Twitch. That's because of this stupid it's because of this Streamlabs thing, and I just got rid of it. I was like, I'm not doing this thing. Why would I? It was like you had to then pay to go it to Twitch as well. So I was like, why I'm not paying for it already to go to Twitch. So why would I download something extra and then pay for it to go to the same destination that it was going to?
Interesting.
Oh, Peyton's already in. What a dog. He's got to have noties. I know Ethan's got noties.
Let's we get an audio check then.
Yeah, we're on my screen that I always don't check whenever it works or whenever it doesn't work. We're good. So Peyton,
Check on
if
that.
you could give us a little check though while we're setting up.
I'll pull it up as well just to make sure.
Yeah, we're on my screen.
I'm sorry for the feedback.
No worries.
Yeah, we're good. We got to talk about a couple like actual moves too, right?
Oh yeah, I was gonna bring it up
Should
at
we
the
lead with
top.
that? Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna bring it up at the top. Oh, audio is good from the Noti gang. Good to hear. Good to hear.
The Noti gang. Subsection of wise guys culture.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we got a Chris sounds wonderful. Do I sound
Oh
wonderful,
no.
Peyton? Or is it just Chris?
I'm just filling up my water. I'll be good to go. You are sick.
All right. You ready?
Okay, wash.
We're good. We should I saw a good drop down in frames. We should be back in 2 seconds. Once the frames come back up, I'll get us started. All right. Frames are back up. Hopefully it doesn't do that again. I wonder like before we get started, I was getting on a little rant. I wonder if it's like my parents, like, I don't know, turning on the TV or something every time that happens.
That'll be funny.
Like it's got it like I wonder where the spike comes from. Because it's so random and it happens for so quickly that
Yeah.
it's got to be just something that's just turning on and messing
If
with
they're
me.
like, yeah, trying to get them something to load, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Noti gang, we still good? I think so. Looks like we're good on my screen. We're gonna get started here in 3, 2, and 1. Hello and welcome to the Wise Guys Podcast. I'm your host, Brady Fitzgerald, joined as always by my co-host, Chris Hagan.
How you guys doing?
Doing great, Chris. We are on episode, what, 4? 3? No, 4 would be the last one. 3 of our new series for the offseason moves. But before we get into it, and before we finish up, because the illegal tampering period is next Monday, so we have to finish by Friday before all the moves set in. But we have a couple moves that we got to get to, including your Washington Commanders making the headline from last episode. It kind of came out immediately after last episode, but that's okay. Here we
It's
are.
very soon.
Chris, I think I said it on that episode too. It was a no-brainer for them to try to throw a 6th or 5th round pick for him.
Yep.
And we're talking about Deebo Samuels, of course. Chris, take the lead here.
I'd actually love to see what I said because I can't exactly remember. But I will say that I wasn't as excited as you would think you'd be like acquiring a player like that right away. Because I don't know, there's just been so much stuff with him over the last 2 years or so with like the being out of shape and complaining about not getting the ball, and I've kind of been hesitant to want guys like that on this team, um, just because it's such a new roster and like they're trying to build a culture. Very quickly, I moved past all of that, and I do not care at all. And he's going to be just fine. I truly do believe that this is a very low risk, high reward move because if Debo shows up to training camp and he's hurt the first week of the preseason, deals with the nagging injury all year, and you don't get the same production that you thought you might get from him. Then you give him a 5th-round pick, and he walks out the door, and that's your worst case scenario. Best case scenario is he has. I mean, I'm not going to say he has the 2021 season because that was a stupidly good season statistically. But best case scenario is he shows up ready to go, which I think is going to happen regardless. And he does get that step back playing in this offense. He's featured a little bit more. There's not another complaint about not giving the ball and whatnot. They don't have a Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield, so I think he's going to be featured pretty heavily, actually. There, he's already the wide receiver 2 on this team, without a doubt.
I mean, literally, no.
Right,
You
by
have Luke
default.
McCaffrey and T
Yeah.
and Terry. That's it.
Yes, I don't think we have another receiver on our roster.
Not on the
So
roster.
yes, by default, he's the wide receiver 2. And I think putting him in a Cliff system is a smart thing because, I mean, we know Cliff loves to run screen passes. It's one of his favorite things to do. And you're going from, one of the beat writers said this, that you're going from throwing screens to De'Ami Brown to Deebo Samuel. However you look at it, that's a pretty significant upgrade. I think all of the negative stuff about him has been overblown. So I think it's a perfect move. That it makes sense. They have the money to take on his contract, which I think he's objectively a little bit overpaid. And for most teams in the NFL, that's a problem. For this team, it's not. So I think it makes perfect sense. If it works out, then you give him another extension. And if it doesn't, then it costs you a 5th-round pick, and you move on.
I completely agree with you. I think this is a no-brainer move for the Washington Commanders. As you said, he's the wide receiver 2. I said you guys should get Cooper Kupp, try to trade for him. Probably could have done a similar deal if the Rams were looking to give him up for that little. But it slides into the role perfectly. He's the slot guy right over the middle. You can put him in the backfield. You can put him in screens. He's gonna run through everyone's
Weapon.
face. Yeah, he's a weapon. He's gonna run through everyone's face, and he's got that mentality that wasn't on this Washington team to begin with. Terry McLaurin's a quiet guy. Jaden Daniels is a quiet guy. He makes the plays with his legs, but he's not like and he takes tough hits, and he's a dog. But he's not thick and he's not he's skinny. So
Yep.
you're gonna have some guy that's just gonna power through people. And
Yeah, we need some meat.
yeah, exactly. And you mentioned the contract stuff from 2 years ago with the 49ers. I think that really screwed up the past 2 seasons for him. Maybe, and I guess it would be 2022 is now 3 years ago, but 2-ish seasons for him. Last year he was injured all year. He also had pneumonia. I can't pronounce that.
No, yeah.
Pneumonia. Yeah, I don't know.
No money.
Thanks. Thank you. And anywho, I think he's
Don't
gonna
say
be
the
fully
P.
healthy. I think he's gonna be locked in. He's in a contract year. If he wants any form of extension, he needs to play well.
Yep.
And if he doesn't play well, he's not gonna get any type of money. And the best case scenario for the Commanders is that he plays decent enough to extend him to a lower number because he's 29 years old. He's not gonna
He can't. He's not going to get the number that he got the first time around,
exactly.
regardless, unless
So
he puts up those same numbers, which is borderline impossible.
yeah, that would be pretty. And if he does that, then you can just sell yourself on,
Right.
yeah,
Then he did that, and that's a win in and of itself.
exactly. So I think it's not much of a loss for the Commanders if this goes poorly, and you have you have nothing to gain, or you have nothing but stuff to gain here by getting Debo
Yeah.
Samuels.
Yep.
So other transaction that happened, Bears traded for Jonah Jackson. Is that what his name is?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, I got that right. Guard from the Rams. Rams signed him last year in free agency. Weird, half fire sale for the Rams is still going on.
I think it's because they signed Jackson, who was my Commander's offseason move.
Yeah, both our Commanders' offseason moves got
Already
blown
already
away.
one off the board.
2, basically.
But yeah, so they re-signed Alaric Jackson to a pretty big deal. So I'm guessing that they just decided, look, we can't have too much money wrapped up in our offensive line right now. Uh, we just signed this guy, but let's move on from the guard because we just had to pay the tackle.
And that makes sense. I mean, they paid the guard last year. They clearly needed the guard space in that time. They had the cap space to do it. If you need to shed a position on the O line, the first position that's going to get shed is the guard. So
Yep.
that does make sense. I think it makes perfect sense for the Bears. We talked about it with the Bears. O line, O line, O line, O line. Just get
Mhm.
Caleb protected, um, and the rest will come to follow. So I think that's it. I mean, Devontae Adams got
Devontae?
cut. I can't think that was kind of I thought that was kind of expected. That didn't shock me at all.
I didn't know that he would. I thought he might be able to get traded though. Like it's kind of crazy that Debo
So
was
what did
able
they
to fetch his
trade for
fifth.
him?
It wasn't a whole lot, I didn't think.
Because that'll tell you. I'm just seeing release to the Jets. Damn it. Um, the third round pick, additional third round pick to
Yeah.
the Raiders. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't like once you
Maybe it's
go.
because they know that like he's not going to go. That Rodgers is going to basically demand that he comes with him.
I think so too. And I think it just. I think the Jets
That's
are
a
just
big.
trying to get rid of all the immature. Like we don't want any. Like we want adults in the room, you know. And I think that just getting rid of
Yeah.
him and not having to deal with whatever he demands. Because you're right. Once Rodgers signs somewhere, Adams is going to come out and say he wants to go there. And then the Jets are going to be their hands are going to be tied, and they're going to have to get like, and I guess they could get like a fifth round pick, but that's if the team even wants to send him that.
Yeah.
So I think it's just easier to release him. Um, it's funny. I saw like a thing for the Pats, like maybe the Pats could go after him. I do think he's gonna go wherever Rodgers goes. They had that stupid thing on Pat McAfee that I can't get out of my brain. Um, and that's really all I got. I think they might both go to the Giants, and the Giants on
Could be.
paper are gonna have a fun offense, and people are gonna talk about it, and then we'll see what happens on the field. But
I mean,
um,
it's you take. It's worse than the Jets' offense was last year.
yeah, but you have
Like you
neighbors.
give from Garrett Wilson to neighbors, and then you don't have Brees Hall.
Yeah, pretty much.
No, I don't know.
But it's
Yes,
funny.
it
Like
will be fun, but like, let's not
the
act like
fact
we didn't do this with the Jets,
that's true, and
and
it's
now it will be a
I
team
think
that's
that's
equally as dysfunctional.
that might be the lesson though for any team that takes Rodgers. Like, what better situation is he leaving from the Jets where their offense was ready for a quarterback and
Yes,
ready to win now. And he's not going to find a better situation than where he just was on the Jets, which is funny to say because they're the Jets.
I know it is crazy to say.
And
Well, because they scapegoated Robert Saleh.
then they scapegoated the GM, and then they scapegoated Rodgers himself. Um,
Yeah.
it was a mess, but that's kind of his own doing too. A lot of politics it seemed like inside of that
Yes,
Jets uh, organization.
definitely.
All right, I think I think that does it. And I don't think this is good that we had this news for this episode because this is by far the most boring
Yeah, it's kind of a
off-season
bummer.
episode. I remember like doing
Uh,
this. I took a nap like twice while doing this because I was just like, what am I gonna like? This is
this is the only
boring.
one that I've like procrastinated.
Yeah,
Like,
same. I
oh,
was like, and then you were like,
figure out what the freaking Jaguars are gonna do this
you
offseason.
texted me. You're like, oh, I can't wait to dive into the Saints, and I dove into the Saints for like 2 minutes. And I'm like, I'm just confused and uh lost, and I still don't think they could make any moves, but we'll get to them, I guess.
You start at the top with the Saints.
Yep. Yep.
We'll get to it, but
All right, we'll get to them. We're starting with the AFC South, of course. We've been starting with the AFC this whole time. We're going to start with the Houston Texans, and I said that they need to get a reliable wide receiver two. Stephon Diggs is going to be a free agent this season. Nico Collins is, of course, their wide receiver one. Tank Dell is their wide receiver two, but he might not play for the whole season. So they need a reliable guy that'll be out there. They tried to get that last year with Stephon Diggs. They had it for about half a season. He looked pretty well. He looked pretty motivated. He looked like he enjoyed the team. Maybe he can come back, but those older guys that just get injured he kind of got like he didn't get screwed. He wanted this. He literally voided the rest of his contract on purpose to do this, but he kind of screwed himself by getting injured. And I wonder what his number is going to be this offseason, Stephon Diggs. Um, but I like them trying to trade for Cooper Cup. Um, I could see them. Another guy that we're going to talk about later, Chris Godwin. I could see them try to go after Chris Godwin.
Mhm.
Um, really just to help CJ Stroud get past that sophomore slump. And Chris, your move's going to talk about how we can protect him.
Yeah, I mean, the Texans, I felt like were kind of similar to the Bears this year in that everything that went wrong was blamed on the offensive line, whereas
Hmm.
like a lot of people didn't want to admit that CJ Stroud regressed a little bit this year, and the scapegoat for that was the offensive line, which is not totally unfair. Like you have Laramie Tunzel, who's one of the best tackles in the league, but I think had a down year last year, and then the rest of the line was pretty shaky. So I had them just going out and getting one of the best but affordable guards on the market, which is Mekhi Becton, who the Eagles turned from a first round left tackle failure into a starting caliber NFL guard. A story that we've seen over and over again, but I think that it's a good fit for him to stay at guard. Obviously, there's positional need there, so I think it makes sense to make a move like that. That's not flashy or anything, but fills a need.
Yeah, I think that's a great move. They have Shaq Mason as the other guard. He's a really good run blocking guard. His pass blocking is average. I think Mekhi Becton would be a great Houston Texan. The issue I would have with this, what would scare me with this for other teams, was is he going to get a lot of money and then not be the same because he's not with the Eagles? But
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like that Zach Bond situation almost,
yeah,
where it's like we watched this guy's career get revived, and um, now that he's outside of that system, we're banking on him to keep up that level of production.
and I think the
I
difference
my
with
brain is stupid where I just look at him and I'm like, this dude is like 6'6",
thank you.
380,
I'm
and he's
glad we're on the
playing
same.
guard.
That's
Like, how does it not work?
that's why we do a podcast together because my next point was going to be he's 300 something pounds, he's 6'7".
Too big to
uh
fail.
yeah, it's that's kind of why the Jets took him as that tackle spot because he was almost too
Mhm.
big to fail and ended up failing as a tackle. It's much easier to fail as a tackle though than it is to fail
Yeah.
as a guard.
It's Eric
So
Flowers, the prime example of it.
yep,
Horrible, horrible at left tackle.
great.
Bang him inside a guard and actually had a pretty successful
Yeah,
career.
great Madden
I don't know
move
what is
too.
he up to now.
Yeah, it's just
The
getting a
rating
big
goes up.
body. Yeah. Um, so I like that a lot. I think that's a good move for the Texans. They should definitely like. It's funny. Their defense was great last season. I felt like it was a little underrated. They could definitely use a second
Mhm.
cornerback, maybe some safety help, but they really did well with their edge rusher combination last year. And from what we saw with the Super Bowl, it's all about the trenches. So
That's right.
like that.
He felt his trenches.
Okay, the Colts was one of the ones where I started like dozing out. I started losing, like I just started getting bored. And it's because, and I think it's because of your suggestion. Not saying it's a critique on your suggestion, but that's just all the suggestions that I've
Yep.
seen. And I guess we'll just say it now, Chris. You wanna explain your suggestion?
Yeah, I mean, I had him drafting the tight end. It really is like the layup offseason move for them because there's two guys where they're at in the draft. Are they at
They're at 14.
where are they at? 14? Okay. So if Tyler Warren is off the board, then there's Colson Loveland from Michigan. Both those guys are going to be first round tight ends. They haven't had a tight end since Eric Ebron, I guess. And before that, it was probably back to like Dallas Clark.
What about
So there's
who's that
positional
guy?
need there.
Give me one sec. Keep talking.
Fleener, Kobe Fleener.
I was thinking of like his name was
I
like
can just start
Jack
naming
something.
Colts tight ends.
Jack something.
Doyle,
Jack Doyle. Yeah,
Jack Doyle.
that's what I'm thinking of. That was the
Point
last like
stands.
prospect. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, like there's positional need there. They actually have a decent roster. Like they could use help on like interior offensive line. They're gonna lose Will Freeze to or Fries. I don't know how to pronounce the last
I
name.
think
They're
it's
gonna lose
fries.
him to free agency. Fries. That's
Yeah.
that's sick.
Great.
Um, they're gonna lose him to free agency. There's spots on the defense that, like, particularly in the secondary, they could use help, but like this is the most glaring need, and it makes sense with the guys that are going to be available in the draft. You don't always have tight ends that are worth taking that high, but this year it looks like you do. So I think it's like I said, it's a layup for them. It doesn't solve their more glaring issue, which you addressed in yours, though.
I think yeah, and I think that's the key to this team. As you said, they have a decent roster. They've had a decent roster for a couple of years now. They've needed this quarterback position like they've needed oxygen, and they haven't been able to get consistent play from it. So my suggestion is draft a quarterback that you're confident in that can play when Anthony Richardson eventually gets hurt. Whether that's Quinn Ewers in like the third or Jackson Dart in the second or even like a Dylan Gabriel stinks though. I wouldn't want him. Uh I like Kyle McCord, but that's just me. Um but there's guys that you can draft in this later rounds that you can't just throw out a Joe Flacco again. You can't just throw out um, some other crappy vet that you sign when
Darnold would be
Richardson gets
perfect
hurt.
there.
Darnold would be perfect. I feel like Darnold would be perfect there. Um,
Such a cold.
but yeah, and they're gonna like because they'd give him 20 million a year, and then they'd be stuck with him for like 5 years.
Or Kirk would be
Um,
the other.
Kirk would be yeah. That's probably what they're probably gonna do as backup is something like Kirk, and then they're gonna be stuck with starting them, and they're gonna be like, oh, the Colts are 1 game away from the playoffs, and they're starting Kirk Cousins. Um,
Yep.
And I guess a rookie quarterback really wouldn't make too much of a difference. But at least if it's Quinn Ewers and he plays well, you could say going into next year, maybe we can see what this kid does. Maybe we can move past Richardson, past his first round mistake, because we're getting to the point, well, this is becoming a mistake. This is he's now what, like I think he's in year 4. He needs to step up and prove that he's the guy because he's not going to get an extension. He's not going to get paid like a big time quarterback. His best scenario that going forward is like a Justin Fields arc where he gets half the snaps in Pittsburgh. And and that sounds merry and maybe come next year Anthony Richardson turns everything around and I'm eating chalk here, which I'm fine with. I'm rooting for Anthony
Yeah.
Richardson
I
because I
think all the
always liked
NFL
him.
is.
Yeah, I always liked him. I thought he had the great arm, the great athleticism. I drafted him like my second round pick in a dynasty draft because it had a super flex quarterback. Um, so I love Richardson, and but I do think they need a backup quarterback that they could at least going forward could play when Richardson gets hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you can't move on from him because there's really no alternative. Um, at least this year. So you have to give him another shot, and you never know. Like maybe it does work out. I would agree with you that it's probably more likely that it doesn't. It's hurt at some point before week 7, and then you're stuck playing whoever they have because I think both their backups are free agents anyway.
It was Joe
Is
Flacco,
Flacco
who's
and Ellinger,
yeah, and like
which regardless, you don't want either of those guys playing football. But like there was a point last year where people were saying that they should start Joe Flacco instead of him. And then we kind of had to reverse that whole thing when Flacco looked terrible, and it was just a bad situation. Um, I honestly do think that one of those guys like Darnold or Cousins would be a good fit. I don't. I think Darnold's probably going to get the starting job in Vegas, so I don't think he would take the
I think he's
backup
becoming a
role.
Raider too.
Yeah. Kirk, I don't know because they say that they're going to keep him. I don't know why
That's
he would move from Atlanta to
they're not going to
Indianapolis.
keep him.
Decide to sign a 4-year deal there. Just to go be a backup again. But it's being a backup for a guy who is going to get hurt, and you're probably going to have a shot at the playoffs. So I don't know. I do think that would make sense. Uh, they're in purgatory right now.
That's what you should want to try to avoid. You want to avoid ending up in the 14th spot where we're projecting you with Tyler Warren. Like that does nothing for your team. Like as much as we and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to bash on your pick. This is like
No,
everyone.
no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, like this is like grabbing a great tight end is great and all, but if you can't have anyone to throw it to him, then after after a
It's the
year, you're gonna have the same
Steelers.
issues.
Yeah, it's the Steelers going receiver in the first round.
Yeah.
It's the same idea.
Yep. Completely agree.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right. Let's but as and to your point and why you're going to make the pick and why they're probably going to go with Tyler Warren at 14 and this is probably going to be their move is just because I mean you can trade down, try to get more
Oh, well, that's
assets. I
yeah,
mean,
that's
yeah.
yeah.
All right, man. I have the Gamecocks game on my TV right up there, and it keeps lagging out. I can't tell what's going on over there.
Who we got tonight?
Georgia, it's senior night. They were down by 10 before this froze. They somehow beat Arkansas like 2 days ago.
Yes, I saw
That was
that.
electric. Lamont has yet to lose to Calipari ever, so that's pretty sick.
That's funny.
Yeah,
That's
right.
like that was a big game for Arkansas, right? Like, aren't
Oh
they?
yeah, they
They're
might
a
get
bubble
kicked out
team,
of the
right?
tournament because of that.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. At home too, they needed that. They needed
Yeah.
that. All right, to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Um, I am going. This isn't fancy. I'm going O line. Alex Kappa just got cut by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He just worked with the coach of the now Jacksonville Jaguars on their
Yeah, there you go.
offense. So I think that's a perfect fit. And I was searching through. There was a Reddit for some. I searched like all of these teams right before. I just do offseason predictions and just read like 5 articles and then get
Mhm.
my thoughts based off that. And there was a Reddit here for the Jaguars for their offseason move, and some guy said that who's the new coach for the Jaguars? Liam Cohen. Liam
Liam
Cohen
Cohen.
worked with Drew Dahlem, a center that is a free agent for the Falcons. Um, he worked with him in college and on the Falcons, so apparently he's gonna like go over there.
Bringing them both in.
Yeah, so bringing some old guys back, trying to
Did he wait? Did
retool the
he
line.
coach Kappa? Because he's been in Cincy the last couple of years. I don't know how
Oh,
long Liam
I
Cohen
just
was in
messed
Tampa
up.
Bay for.
I messed up. You're right. That was bad of me. I just assumed because he was a Tampa Bay Buccaneer at some point. You're right. He was a Bengal the past
Let me
2
see how
years.
long Liam Cohen was. Uh,
I thought Liam Cohen
I
was on
don't
the
know.
Rams. Yeah, I was
He's
gonna
with the
say. Yeah,
Rams.
I think. Yeah, that's on me. Hand up. So it's not a reunion, but I still like the move. I still think a veteran guard going there is the right move for the Jaguars. Um, and the Drew Dahlem thing that you got to check Reddit on that one. But nice
Yeah,
catch
I don't.
though. Nice catch though. I
Thank
would
you.
have felt
Thank
good
you.
about myself that I was like,
Um,
oh, they're coming back and everything. So
yeah, definitely don't hate it. They're losing Brandon. I think Brandon Sheriff is a free agent, and
yep.
he's getting pretty old anyway. Um, I guess like Cap is a good stopgap there. Like let's
I think
fill a veteran hole with another veteran.
I agree. And I think on that sense, they can't get rid of or not get rid of, but they can't lose faith in Trevor Lawrence. They really can't. They already signed him to this
No, I mean they
extension.
gave him $1 billion, so
Yeah. I guess
kind of don't have a
they
choice.
that's true. They don't have a choice. But they need to build around him and building out the O-line is of
Yeah.
course what you need.
Yep. Yep. Don't hate it. So they could do that. They could also do what I have them doing, which is drafting Mason Graham at number 5, who is a beast of a defensive tackle coming out of Michigan. Focus on the trenches, man. We keep saying it. It also helps that this draft is like super deep at the tackle, edge, and O line.
Mhm.
So it's kind of easy for a lot of these teams where we're identifying a weakness to just say, well, draft the best D tackle available or draft the best alignment available. Um, and apologies if we sound like broken records, but I think it's true. Uh, Jags at 5, you are almost certainly going to have the opportunity to draft Graham with what's in front of you. You probably are not going to be able to draft Abdul Carter, but you never know. So it's just best D line guy at that point. Their edge guys are pretty solid right now with Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker. Obviously, Trayvon Walker has not lived up to the number 1 pick type, but like we could have predicted that at the time. Imagine if they had Aiden Hutchinson.
I know. Did we
It
yell
was so
about that
easy
enough?
too.
Did we yell about that enough on the
I don't think
pod?
we did because it's Jacksonville. We're
And
just kind of like, whatever.
that I would love to go back and see what a reaction to that was because it had to have been bad. And it
I
said, and
think they get
I
his.
think it was just we fell for what everyone was telling us. It was just like, he's a project, and in 5 years, like, but like, I never saw it, and I guess it's where we are now. But I agree. I think boosting up that D line is important. They are missing a D tackle spot greatly. They don't really have anyone that plays the D tackle spot that's any good. And when they were their best, they were Saxonville. Um, and you just got to remember that. I mean, if you're in Jacksonville, that you could have, and they had Jalen Ramsey at that time, but a good secondary is only as good as the pass rush that comes in front of it. And having Mason Graham in there, really solidifying that middle and letting the edge rushers do their work. Maybe it boosts up Trayvon Walker to the first round hype or first overall hype that we want him to eventually get to. And I think this would be a great move for them. I think if they're lucky enough that Mason Graham falls down there, because they basically need both the quarterbacks to go in the top 5, and they're guaranteed Graham. But if one of them
pretty much.
slips, they might lose out. And then they could do a couple other options. Maybe a team wants to trade up, but we'll get to that if that ever happens. And I do like a Mason Graham in here though.
Evan Walker had 10 sacks last year, which I didn't realize.
Getting better year by year. Love to see it.
You never know. Next year,
Yeah, it could
be
be
the
the
year.
breakout. Yeah, it could be the year. All right. The number 1 pick of the draft, Tennessee Titans. This is actually it's funny
I
that
think
we
we have
both
the
came to the same
same
conclusion. Yeah.
move here.
I I got a little more specific because I think this is where it's heading, and I think I'm going to do this in our mock draft, which I guess is a spoiler. But I think the Titans should trade down the number 1 pick to the Giants so the Giants can secure Cam Ward, make sure they don't have to deal with Shadur Sanders. Because from what I'm hearing, what Adam Schefter said on Pardon My Take, it seems like Cam Ward will not make it past the Browns at pick 2. So if the Giants want Cam Ward, they don't want Shadur Sanders, they're going to have to trade up to 1. Um, I think the Titans, this would be a no-brainer for them. You get maybe a first rounder next year. You get a couple second round
Yep.
picks. You get anything and you could still probably get the number 1 pick in the draft, player wise. Like you could probably still get Abdul Carter. You can probably still get not Shadur Sanders. Sorry, what's his name? Travis Hunter. So if you're the Titans, you're the risk of trading down is losing out on one of the two, and you're guaranteed one of the two when you trade down. So it's it's not that much of a risk. It's a lot of reward. Um, I think the Titans would be smart to do this, and they don't need like they and we they, I don't think they need to rush into a quarterback right now. They don't really have a lot of us on the team.
Yeah, I mean, they spent a lot last year in free agency and had a pretty frisky defense and still ended up with the worst record in the NFL. So I agree. I think there is a risk, and that risk is that Cam Ward turns into a great NFL quarterback, and then you're sitting there like, well, we could have taken him. We had our pick of the lot at 1, and we decided to trade down. So like, obviously that's the risk. Um, but I don't think anyone expects this quarterback class to be like a generational class or anything like that. So if you're just playing the numbers game, like yes, it makes sense to trade down. If you can get another first round pick out of it, like that would be huge. And I think they would be able to. Like the trades from even from 3 to 1 is like insane compensation. Um,
Well,
I
think
think
about the
they'd be able
Giants.
to.
They're all going to get fired if it doesn't work out next year. So
Oh yeah,
they don't care
yeah,
about
they
next
will.
year's draft. Yeah.
That's true. That is true. Um, so yeah, I had the same take as you. I thought that they should just go best player available at every spot that they have in this draft because there's like no one on this roster is irreplaceable right now.
Yep. And it was a couple of the guys that I talked about, that for the Colts in the second or the third round could easily go to the Titans and be the starting quarterback next year. And they might be getting thrown in the fire, but it's either that or you throw Will Levis back into the fire, or you go with,
Yeah.
you know, some other bum free agent and you try to figure it out. And I think they could do like they could try to do like a Jameis Winston and they draft a guy in the third or a second and try to go that way. And I don't know, it's just like I'd rather if you're the Titans and you're already here
I almost just rather start Levis again.
and just try to get Arch.
Yeah.
And it's just like why like just try to and Carter if Carter is out for a season because of a leg injury, great. Let's let him rehab in Nashville. Let him listen to some music down in Nashville. Um,
Yeah.
I think I think they could do a lot here, and they could go quarterback. I don't think it would be a mistake. it would be. I think it would be. I think it's lot riskier to have Cam Ward come out on the first Sunday of the NFL season though, in a Titans uniform. I'd rather him like if I'm a Titans fan, I honestly would just rather see him in another uniform. And if he works out, he works out. But
Yep.
yeah, that's all. That's what I got
Yeah,
here.
I think I agree.
It's a tough situation because you always want to. You don't want to be the guy who doesn't take the quarterback number one, and then the quarterback becomes
Yeah.
great. I wonder if there's a scenario where they can trade back to 3 and then get Shadur.
Are the Browns taking a quarterback?
Schefter, it made it seem like he thought they would only take Cam Ward.
They wouldn't take Shadur.
That's what it seemed like. It seemed like there's a lot of media circus with Shadur that people don't want
It
to.
does seem like that.
Yeah, that people don't want to hop on, which seems like why kind of like the Raiders may be trading up for him. But I don't know. Now I'm getting frisky with this offseason. I feel like everyone's just going all over the place. Let's go to the NFC South though. We're going over to the NFC side. I got word from Thomas Wilson, our Falcons fan representative, and he said it's time to draft defense. We talked about it a couple days ago that they have. Well, we didn't talk about it, not you and me, but me and Thomas. That they have 8 out of 11 starters on offense are first round picks, and a couple of the O linemen are second and third round picks of the aggregates there. Um, so they need a draft defense. I think you mentioned edge rusher. I think they could go edge rusher. They could go D tackle. They have a pretty good
A
secondary.
corner,
Yeah, they could go corner though.
safety,
I was just gonna say they have a good secondary. They could go corner
maybe a
though. They could.
second corner.
Yep, right next to Terrell. And
Yep.
let's see what else he said. So he, yeah, D tackle or edge is his first priority. I guess this is some little things, but he wants to retain Hodges and give Rondale Moore a chance because he was injured last year. Um, and then together work on the secondary in the second or third round. He wants Jalen Walker out of UGA or James Pierce out
Okay.
of Tennessee. I like both those
Okay.
guys.
I have Walker on my list. The only reason I didn't write Pierce down is because I think I had him going somewhere else, which I don't remember. It should be on our list. But yeah, so I had the three guys that I called out in the draft were Jalen Walker, Michael Williams, and Mike Green. I think at least one of those guys will be available. I think Walker's the highest. Walker's the highest rated, at least on Jeremiah's board, which is the
He's
one that
a
I've been looking
he's a
at.
Tavon Walker
Uh,
type player. Everyone thinks he's gonna be
I
good in
see
like 2 or 3 years.
project.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did seem like reading his bio, he does seem kind of like a hybrid edge almost, which if we know anything about the Falcons, like you just never know actually with the Falcons. Because I started to say that like they're not going to want a guy who's going to be a project, and then I thought about last draft where they took a project at quarterback with their first round pick. So they're kind of unpredictable now that I think about it. I kind of just started talking about my ass there. Um, so there will be edge rushers at their spot, which is 15 or 16.
Yeah, and there's a lot of there's not a lot of high end